The industrial system does not merely pollute the environment, it fundamentally engineers human psychology. Kaczynski argued that modern technological society forces individuals into conditions that contradict innate biological needs, leading directly to widespread depression and alienation. This psychological distress is not a side effect, but a necessary mechanism for system stability. The system requires humans to be highly regulated, predictable components, suppressing the natural human drive for autonomy and the direct experience of overcoming real challenges. This suppression manifests as the feeling of powerlessness, even among those who appear successful within the system. The core conflict is between the biological imperative for the power process and the technological imperative for efficiency and control. The power process describes the four essential components of human motivation: goal, effort, attainment of the goal, and autonomy in pursuing it. Kaczynski asserts that industrial society systematically removes the effort and autonomy stages for most people. Instead of securing basic survival through direct action, modern citizens rely on complex, centralized systems for food, shelter, and security. This reliance transforms meaningful struggle into trivialized artificial pursuits. When the power process is frustrated, individuals develop serious psychological problems, including low self-esteem, depression, and escapism. The system substitutes genuine achievement with surrogate activities, which provide temporary satisfaction but fail to fulfill the underlying biological need for purposeful exertion. Surrogate activities are artificial goals pursued with energy that would otherwise be directed toward fulfilling the power process. Examples include excessive consumption, obsessive academic study, political activism focused on minor issues, or intense engagement in sports fandom. These activities are necessary for system stability because they channel human energy away from revolutionary action. The system encourages these pursuits by making them socially acceptable and rewarding, thereby masking the underlying dissatisfaction. This alienation is compounded by over-socialization, where individuals are conditioned to internalize societal norms so deeply that deviation causes severe guilt and anxiety. Over-socialization serves as a powerful tool of social control, ensuring compliance without overt physical coercion. Kaczynski argues that the industrial technological system is inherently self-propagating and autonomous. Technological development does not proceed based on human choice, but follows its own internal logic of efficiency and optimization. Every new technology creates new problems that require further technological solutions, leading to an accelerating cycle of dependence. This process inevitably concentrates power into the hands of a small elite who manage the complex machinery, regardless of political ideology. The system demands increasing control over human behavior to maintain its functionality, making individual freedom inversely proportional to technological advancement. Therefore, technology cannot be selectively adopted or reformed. It must be accepted entirely or rejected entirely. The manifesto rejects the possibility of reforming the industrial system to make it humane or ecologically sound. Attempts at reform are dismissed as surrogate activities that merely distract from the fundamental problem. Any reform that threatens the system's efficiency or stability will be rejected or co-opted by the system itself. For instance, environmental regulations are often implemented only if they do not significantly impede economic growth or technological advancement. Kaczynski concludes that the system is too robust and too interconnected to be gradually dismantled. Only a complete revolutionary collapse of the technological infrastructure can restore the conditions necessary for human autonomy and psychological health.
The proposed revolution must aim for the total destruction of the industrial base, not merely a change in political leadership or economic structure. Kaczynski suggests that the collapse is likely to occur when the system becomes so complex and unstable that it breaks down under its own weight. The role of revolutionaries is to accelerate this process and ensure that the system cannot be rebuilt after the collapse. This requires promoting anti-technology sentiment and fostering small, decentralized groups prepared to survive the transition. The goal is a return to a primitive, decentralized, non-technological way of life where humans directly engage in the power process necessary for survival. Kaczynski's ideas align closely with anarcho-primitivism, a strain of anarchist thought that critiques civilization itself as the source of oppression. Primitivists argue that the shift from hunter-gatherer societies to settled agriculture initiated the decline of human freedom and ecological balance. Key primitivist thinkers, such as John Zerzan, focus on the symbolic culture, division of labor, and domestication as primary mechanisms of control. Kaczynski provides a specific, systematic critique focused on the technological imperative, distinguishing his argument by emphasizing the psychological damage caused by the frustration of the power process, rather than solely focusing on the historical origins of civilization. Kaczynski dedicates significant attention to criticizing modern leftism, defining it primarily by feelings of inferiority, over-socialization, and a need to impose moralistic control. He argues that leftists are often the most deeply conditioned products of the industrial system, seeking power not to dismantle the system, but to manage it according to their own moral framework. This critique asserts that leftist movements are fundamentally incapable of leading a genuine anti-technological revolution because they are inherently tied to the system's values of progress, organization, and large-scale social engineering. True revolutionary action, according to the manifesto, must be driven by a primal, non-ideological desire for autonomy and wildness. The feasibility of Kaczynski's proposed revolution faces immense practical challenges, primarily the difficulty of dismantling a globally interconnected infrastructure without catastrophic human cost. Critics point out that a sudden collapse would likely result in mass starvation and death due to the inability of billions to sustain themselves without industrial agriculture and logistics. Ethically, the argument for revolution necessitates accepting widespread suffering as a necessary precursor to long-term freedom. This raises fundamental questions about whether the psychological benefits of a primitive existence outweigh the immediate devastating consequences of systemic collapse for the current global population. Despite the author's criminal actions, the core arguments presented in Industrial Society and Its Future continue to influence anti-civilization and deep ecology movements. The manifesto remains a foundational text for understanding the radical critique of technological determinism and its impact on human psychology. Its lasting contribution lies in framing technological progress not as a neutral tool, but as an autonomous force that dictates social structure and individual behavior. The text forces a confrontation with the idea that modern comfort is purchased at the expense of fundamental human autonomy, a tension that defines much of contemporary debate regarding artificial intelligence and centralized control.